Welcome guys. If you are watching on the replay, which most of you probably are because the live stream has a delay, and you're wondering yourself, how can I get on the awesomeness that is this live chat and this live stream? We do it every other Wednesday, And what we do is you make sure you subscribe to the channel and you click that little bell that you get notified every time I go live. I also make sure I release the time, just a confirmation the day of on Facebook as well as Twitter. And those links are in the description if you want to figure out exactly when I'm going live. And that way you're prepared and you know exactly kind of what's going on. I think I just got a notification for myself. But yeah, so it looks like the chat's rocking. We got lots of great questions in there. Let's go ahead and make this fuller screen so you can kind of see what's going on. Yeah, perfect. Let's move some things around. And we got some good questions so far, I think. It looks like, thanks everyone for the kind words. Let's see, a group from Hammock Forums is having a group hang at Hanson's Point April 13th weekend. I did not know about that. I have to check the calendar and see what's going on. I know, yeah, usually, honestly, it's really fun. People kind of ask about kind of specific dates and see what works. It becomes pretty difficult once the year starts to get any dates kind of on the calendar because, Josh and I the Joshes and I actually kind of plan almost a full year in advance exactly where we're going to go, what weeks we're going to go. Sometimes it can be last minute. It just depends on family plans. And so that's why sometimes it's difficult for me, at least, to get away on a really short notice. But I'll look and see what's happening on April 13th. That sounds like it'd be a fun. Hanson's Point is an awesome place to camp in Red River Gorge. So it'd be kind of nice to see just those guys from the forums out there. I'm not super active in the forums. I'm more lurk than anything else, but it's still kind of fun. Let's see. Thanks for the love, guys. Did Josh have the lightest pack on our last trip? Those of you guys who follow me on Instagram realize that I just came back this past weekend from Oil Creek in Pennsylvania. And man, after kind of never being in Pennsylvania hiking and backpacking since the YouTube channel started, one of the fun things to do is we've been there 2 months. I've been there 2 months in a row now, and it's been fantastic. Man, that trail system that you guys have is just phenomenal. And Oil Creek is really pretty. It was definitely a more relaxing trip, which is what Bob from Uptrail 71 in the chat is talking about. The big thing for us is we just wanted a relaxing trip. We had someone new with us. We had Subaru, Josh's girlfriend, Jordan, and and the big thing for us was to make sure that she had a kind of an enjoyable trip. So just a quick overnight after Laurel Highlands. We were kind of, for me at least, we expected more winter temps, and this winter has just been crazy. I mean, sure, we've had some kind of cold times, but you guys kind of know it's been really warm. I think it was 60 degrees here today, so that was kind of fun. And I guess spring is here, but unfortunately it means I can't truly test some winter gear. One of the winter gear clothing that you kind of saw in Laurel Hound's video, that double layer Gore-Tex jacket, rain jacket, or winter shell that I wore, which was the Outdoor Research 4A. I actually ended up returning that and got just a extra large Outdoor Research Helium 2, which is kind of my 3-season gear, just in a larger size to kind of fit all those clothes under. And the reason is the Outdoor Research 4A stunk. Like the Helium 2, it doesn't absorb a whole lot of sweat, but the 4A just absorbed all that sweat. It was so nasty. I let it air out for a while and it still didn't do anything. So that was the part that was really annoying, honestly. And these live chats are always fun to do. And Jason from Outdoor Adventures is actually doing one next week, March 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to check him out. It's kind of fun. We try to make sure we kind of coordinate this time to make sure we don't have it in the same week. And so that you guys kind of have the backpacking live chat experience not all crammed into one session, because it seems like it's getting more popular, which is exciting to see. And I honestly have to point out Jason. Jason is the one who kind of started it. And I was like, that seems like a great idea, a good way to interact with you guys. Kind of in a more, like he said in his last video, more a two-way setting. So it's kind of give and take. It's not just me talking in the video. It's just the back and forth, especially with the chat. And so Josh did not have the lightest pack in our Oil Creek camp out, just because he carried this cast iron skillet. And so that's what Bob is talking about. Oil Creek was pretty. It really was. It was. It made me want to do the whole loop, Jason, just because I thought it was pretty enough. And I know I've seen it on your videos, but it was another thing seeing it kind of in person, just in that small area. We were at Cow Run Shelter, and how amazing just that we just explored a little bit for, let's say, 45 minutes one way, and it took us about 20 minutes to kind of hike back. And it was fun to see. I think it was Greg run is what we kind of ended up crossing over. And if we continue, we of course we go to that waterfall. Subaru Josh is kind of recovering, so we're trying to make sure that he kind of baby his ankle just a little bit. Hey everyone. I'm stuck in an office preparing tax returns. Wish I was outside hiking. Yeah, you're welcome. Springtime is pretty much here. Thanks for finally clicking the bell, Bob. That's one way to make sure you don't miss anything. There've been some times that I've missed people's videos because I don't have that bell clicked, and it automatically reminds me, hey, you got to click that bell if you're interested in seeing the videos. You have to make sure you do that. Bleep Bleep Ohio, what is your occupation? Does it allow freedom to hike on the fly? I'm a psychologist in a school district. Does it allow me freedom to hike on the fly? Not really. I take that back. Usually what it depends on is it depends on my calendar and my schedule. And if I, just like with everything, like I set my hiking calendar way in advance and it becomes easier, then I can kind of schedule around that. How long did it take me to get to Oil Creek? I think it took about 5 hours driving. Subaru Josh drove. Nope, it's not the Outdoor Adventures live chat. This is Tim Watson Outdoors. But yeah, Jason and I have hiked together, and so we're kind of cross-promoting, if you will. Yep. March 6th. Let's see. Hey, you're welcome to stick around. Howdy, Rom. David is saying, my buddy and I are planning a Dolly Sodge trip. Every video I watch on the place makes it look like it's very difficult to navigate. No blazes, very little signage. Is that true? And yeah, actually, the videos are interesting when you watch them consistently. Dolly Sodge videos is that you, I guess I didn't really realize exactly how hard it was to navigate. Now, the trail is pretty defined. It's not difficult, but in some ways it reminds me of Red River Gorge, where there are lots of opportunities to get off the trail. And so actually it took us a little while to find Lion's Head when we went there, and it also took us a little while to sometimes navigate back to the trail, because once you go off, it's kind of difficult to remember, to find the trail again, especially when it's in deep underbrush. And so that's definitely a possibility. We did not see the waterfalls, Jason. And even though it would have been awesome, but I know Josh's ankles kind of held us back there, and we wanted a more relaxing trip. So that just means we'll have to visit again. Let's see. Hey, Sean. Best hiking in Ohio for a 2 to 3 day trip. I think you'd probably be talking more about Wayne National Forest or kind of the Shawnee area. But honestly, what I like, if you want to make it like a backpacking trip, those are the two areas I kind of point out. But I love Hocking Hills. I just have a thing for Hocking Hills. I think you could easily, but you'd have to stay at campgrounds, kind of make a 2 to 3 day trip of it. You just have to, like, let's say Top of the Caves campground in Hocking Hills, I think is awesome. They have a trail that leads directly to Ash Cave, which will connect you to Old Man's Cave and just the entire system you can kind of see that way. 2 to 3 day trip might be kind of stretching it, but if you just want hiking and not backpacking, that's honestly what I recommend to see Ohio. Hey, Gucci Girl and Grumpy, hopefully your ankle is doing a little better. I'm sorry to see what happened, but I think like everyone has said in watching Ivy Tat recently, he said, hey, there's nothing to be ashamed of or anything. I think you know that people were pulling for you, and injury is just something that happens. And so it's glad to see you around. Hey, Alex. Thanks, Steve. Any plans to hike anywhere in Alabama? Sipsey Wilderness and Pinhoti through Talladega National Forest is a great. Alabama doesn't get the love it deserves for hiking. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. Thanks for mentioning Zaleski Carlson. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like I know a whole lot of Alabama hikers, at least on YouTube. When I think about Alabama, I think about Jack's Drink Water, Jack's the Bearded Hiker, and the Fiery Gizzard is another one that gets a lot of love. It seems like on YouTube that I've seen a bunch of videos about that. And then the Weekend Hiker is another Alabama hiker that's out there, and I haven't seen him do a video in a little while, but he has a bunch out there too. But yeah, Sipsey Wilderness I've seen quite a few on, and so it depends maybe who you're subscribed to, but I think I hear about Alabama a lot. Steve is asking about time in the Adirondacks. I have not spent a whole lot of time in the Adirondacks, Steve, which is kind of funny because I went to school in Western New York, and so I've visited the Adirondacks and I've hiked in the Adirondacks, but never backpacked. Now that I'm in Ohio, it takes me a lot longer to get there. I actually lived in Buffalo, Western New York area for a while, and I wish I had done more backpacking in the Adirondacks. I look back now because that place is wild. Not only wild as in really, really fun, but truly like it's one of those wilderness areas where you recognize like how small you are and how much wildlife is out there. And so I actually had my roommate in college had a cabin in the Adirondacks, and I remember visiting there and staying there for a couple weeks, and that was just a really good time. Kevin is asking, what's your general routine like in the mornings when you're backpacking? And so this is a really interesting question, because when I think about my mornings, it's very different from a lot of other people in that my goal and the Josh's goal is to kind of move on. And so I'm usually up as soon as the sun is up, just because you're in your hammock or whatever, it's shining through the tarp or shining into your hammock. And I'm usually awake at that point. And then I tear down my setup. My breakfast is never, I don't think I've ever had maybe once, a hot breakfast on the trail. It's always like a granola bar or a Kind bar or a Lara bar, something like that, where I know I stash it in my hip belt pocket and so I can eat on the move. And so it's tear down, get my pack ready, morning constitutional, of course, which means the trowel is going to come out and I do my business and I come back. By that time, usually Subaru Josh is the one who takes a while longer to kind of wake up or get out of his hammock and put my pack on and go. Usually we're on the trail easily by 8 o'clock is one of the latest times, maybe 8:30. Fortunately, all of us kind of hike a similar way and backpack a similar way. And so we're kind of ready to move, hike on again, and we eat our breakfast on the move. I know, David, sorry to hear about diagnosis cellulitis. Oh, a leg wound. Hiking the weekend before. And yeah, we were actually kind of looking for you just to see if you showed up or not. I knew you were at the trailhead. But yeah, there was only one other person at Cow Run. And man, the nice thing about this area in Pennsylvania, just in general, in Oil Creek or your overall trail system, is that it's very family friendly, I feel like. And so I think I would take my family to Cow Run any day and just kind of explore that area if I could kind of book a place in the shelter. Same thing with Laurel Highlands. I just think that those are great areas to explore with kids and families, and the shelter system is just amazing. I have not done the Shawnee State Loop. Honestly, I do a lot of hiking around Ohio, but not a lot of backpacking in Ohio. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but the reason is whenever I get time away to go backpacking, usually I'm like, hey, let's drive out of Ohio. Let's go kind of to Michigan or south to Kentucky or Tennessee or east across to Pennsylvania. Let's kind of go to something bigger, just because Ohio doesn't have a whole lot of mountains. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that, but something to think about. Let's see. Jason's asking, how far are you willing to drive for a backpacking trip? And that's kind of alludes to the same sort of question I was just talking about. Let me just check and make sure everything looks like they're everything's still synced up, so it's good. Overall time that we usually have driven, usually about 8.5 hours is our kind of cap for our radius. Not to say we won't go further. And so, for example, there's some things I want to see. Porcupine Mountains in Michigan, I think is on my list, but that's you're talking like a 10-hour drive. If you're talking the Adirondacks, I think you're talking 6 from Buffalo, so you're talking like maybe 12 hours for us. So that's definitely pushing it. But 8.5 is kind of our cap. The earliest I've ever left for a trip is about 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's a drive to get to the trailhead. And so that makes for a super long first day. And that's one of the reasons actually why I make sure I have a pad in my hammock, which is unusual for a hammock camper. Most guys recognize quickly that underquilts are the most comfortable way to go. And I definitely get that. But for me, there was one trip, I think it was, we were doing that Mount Camera Loop, and we also were doing Mount Sterling the next day. And we were staying in the Davenport Gap shelter. And I didn't have a comfortable pad at the time for going to the ground. And it was just the most uncomfortable night I've ever had. I got like maybe an hour's worth of sleep, maybe 2 hours at a push. And that was just so uncomfortable. I did not like doing that. And that's something where I decided never again. So I made sure I got one of the most comfortable pads there are, make sure it's warm. And so if I had to go to the ground, I get a little bit more sleep. Hey, Restless. Idaho in the Bitterfoot Wilderness area. You will be way out there with no one around. I used to backpack there. Interesting. Restless. Yep, travel gets talked about. What is your opinion on using a drone for videoing while on the trail? I don't mind them. I think as long as people are respectful of it and they follow rules, of course, like for example, national parks, most of them you're not allowed to fly a drone, or at least take off a drone from that area and fly in that area. Doesn't bother me as long as people are respectful. I actually have not had a whole lot of issue running people who are not respectful with it. Most people that I've seen, I know Alex from Meerkat hiking, when we did it in the Laurel House hiking trail, he kind of took it off just at camp or when we were at Beam Rocks and just to kind of check out different areas, do some filming. No issue with it. I haven't seen anyone do a disservice to people who use drones. On your trip to Picture the Rocks, what was the elevation like on your day to Cliffs Campground? Would like to end my trip on that site so I can drive back that day. Trevor, overall, the elevation gain on the whole Picture Rocks trail is not bad at all. You can easily fly through it, but the last day on the way to Cliffs is what I remember being the most elevation. So it was probably the tougher part of the trail. It wasn't as exciting or as interesting heading to Cliffs. We just kind of did it to make sure we kind of finished the entire trail, or the entire through, I guess, or the traditional through. And so we did exactly what we did. We ended at Cliffs, smaller camp area. I believe there wasn't any water there, or there was a stream maybe a little ways back that Bob told us about, and thankfully it was there. But elevation, the entire trail is not bad. Mike goes outdoors. Do you wear zip-off pants usually when hiking? I used to. Not anymore. I just found that I didn't zip off the pants. I first started off using it, but then I realized I worry more about ticks, and so I decided not to use them anymore. Hey, Mark. That's my brother in the chat right there. Let's see. Ex officio boxers. Yep, that's exactly what I use. Even though I've been thinking about trying out Tesla boxers. Karate Josh was telling me about them, and thinking that they may be an appropriate kind of budget item, because ex officio boxers can get expensive. I have not gone to Clifton Gorge, but Josh has. Subaru Josh has. You see him in the chat. But yeah, he went there, I think, with his girlfriend, and it's just a pretty cool place to see. When he showed me pictures, I was like, that's pretty neat. Let's see. Yellow Springs, Ohio for a quick day hike. I know Josh once again I think he's gone there, or at least he was talking about it, but no, I typically have not. Once again, you guys have asked me this before, but kind of my time is limited, and so I usually am able to block out one kind of time period a month where I can go backpacking or go hiking. We try to keep the kids in more local areas for hiking, so you're talking local parks that are around the area, but nothing Hocking Hills occasionally. But usually my time is pretty limited, so I'm pretty jealous of it, making sure that, hey, if I'm going to take time off to do this thing, it's going to be something that's epic. Oh, let's see. Prepping for the AT, Bubba's World, welcome. From point A to point Z, yep. I think the ex officio underwear holds the boxers. The Give and Go is probably the best that I've ever worn. I really like it. Mr. Donnell, with the most interesting, funny, memorable interaction with animals you have had. That's a great question. It's actually at Mohican State Park. We had this funny run-in with a raccoon. So what is going on is I'm laying in my hammock. Josh is laying in the hammock, probably about maybe 8 or 9 feet from me, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning because I checked my watch, and I hear this rustling around 2 o'clock in the morning, and Josh is going through his pack. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I don't understand. And so I'm kind of in the fog, but I hear him ruffling through his pack, and he pulls out his water bottle, and we're in hammocks, but it's kind of on an incline, and so that's the nice thing about hammocks is that you can do that. And I hear his water bottle follow and roll like 15 feet down this incline. And I'm like, that's hilarious. And I look out and I shine my light. I'm like, Josh, what are you? And there's a raccoon digging into Josh's pack, just kind of rummaging around, and it knocked out the water ball, and that's what rolled down. That's probably the funniest one I've had. We had problems at Site 10, just kind of beating off the raccoons and yelling at them to go away, and they were pretty relentless. Southern California would be awesome. This year, I actually was hoping to, I was planning on doing the JMT. Decided against it. Just kids are too young right now. I decided not to do it. That was my call. But yeah, I want to come out Southern California. Costco has, good old Costco, Ex Officios, 3 packs at $25. Yeah, that's pretty good. Pair of Thieves is another good brand I've heard of. Do I use a handheld GPS, cell phone app, or paper map? Or do I just trust trail signage? Don't use a cell phone app. Usually we'll have a trail map, trust the signage somewhat. But I do bring a handheld GPS. The Joshes and I split the cost of one of those Garmin, it used to be DeLorme, but the Garmin Explorer Plus. And we usually will kind of start the subscription only in areas where we feel like it's kind of iffy. So when we did Maroon Bells, we had the subscription then. When we've done some areas in the Smokies, we started the subscription then. But the nice thing about that Garmin Explorer Plus is even if you don't have the subscription, you still have the maps, and you still can check it on the fly without actually being subscribed anymore. Let's see. I switched to Spider. This person says, I'm Razor Guy. I switched to Spider boxers from Ex Officio, never going back. Interesting. Spider. I have to check that out. Hey, Mike. Jay Crace is asking about big trips that I have planned. And so there's going to be a trip to Red River Gorge here, probably within the next few months. We're also tentatively planning Smokies Loop, because it's nice to go back to Smokies. The Smokies is like one, if you haven't watched my videos a whole lot, are one of the areas that I absolutely love to go to. There's just something about being in the Smoky Mountains that just kind of, I don't know, whisks me away to a better place. That's kind of my park. As well as later on in the summer, the hope is to go to Utah and do some trips around there, do a loop or a lollipop trip, because it's actually kind of hard to do some loops around there. Utah is going to be the big trip for the year, just watching prices of plane tickets. And the big thing is, let's see, we're hoping to have the tickets purchased here in a month or so. So that's it for now. And then probably in the latter half of the year is where we'll start planning for the fall and then the winter months. Yeah, raccoons at campsite 10. Mine goes outdoors asking about the Z-Packs Arc Haul. Is it more comfortable than my Osprey? Or do you use the Arc Haul because it's so lightweight and waterproof? And the answer is, Mike, all of the above. I think the Z-Packs is more comfortable than the Osprey. Granted, my pack has gotten lighter over time, so that's something to consider. But I use it because it's lightweight and waterproof for me, has been waterproof for me, but it's more comfortable. Honestly, the Osprey Exos, the Osprey Airspeed kind of back mesh is a nice transition or preparation for the Z-Packs Arc Haul, and so it's a really nice switch for me. But that's one of the reasons I use it. It's comfort. But I've been toying with more and more the idea of a frameless backpack. I've been watching Frozen's video, and I watched it a couple times on his Z-Packs Nero. Kind of makes me jealous because I'm actually thinking about maybe getting, well, I don't know how to say this. I won't spoil the surprise for you. But I did purchase a frameless backpack for summer and maybe some day hikes, just when I'm carrying a lighter load. Not that it's going to replace the Z-Packs Arc Haul, but it's going to kind of supplement my overall loadout when I want to go super light. Let's say an overnight or even 2 nights, something that's a little smaller, a little lighter, and I can move a little faster. Kevin is talking about doing the JMT this year. 3 days, no permit, 18 more days. It's been super stressful. You can always go northbound, so that's something you can consider. I actually had a friend who was saying the same thing you were with the JMT. I didn't want to deal with the whole permit system, so I said, hey, why not just go northbound? And she looked into it, and she did the JMT last year with a friend, and they thought it was epic and awesome. But granted, the traditional way, southbound, I understand why you're kind of going through that. But if you don't get the permit, I'd say northbound is definitely an awesome way to go. Nick is asking, do you ever pay attention to the geology of the areas in which you hike? honestly, Nick, I don't know too much about the geology of areas that we hike in. I pay attention to it because I think it's pretty, or I think it's different. So for example, Red River Gorge, I know some of the history of that area being a sea, and some of that area with the flooding and the rock formation, the honeycomb formations. Hocking Hills has a lot of that as well. And so I pay attention to it, but I just don't know enough about it, honestly. I feel the same way when I think about Andrew from Adventure Archives, when he talks about plants and different things that he sees and identifies. I always think to myself, man, I actually started kind of learning about different trees and different plants. So I can talk about it more, but I always wish I had that level that he is at. Nero is the one pack I don't have or haven't owned. I still want to try. It won't be for a while. Yeah, the Nero looks really interesting to me, as well as Superior Wilderness Designs. Looking at their packs, and they have some awesome ones out there. But yeah, I'm looking at the frameless stuff, and I'm not sure. My overall pack weight, I think base weight is like 11.6 pounds. I have to kind of update what I have, and I think for a summer, late spring, early fall pack weight, I probably will be ultralight, just by changing out my quilts, changing out the pack. So I'll be probably right under 10 pounds with a hammock setup. I just have to change out maybe some Dyneema straps or shorter straps and my more lightweight Dream Hammock Darien, and I'll be there. Yeah, northbound, I know the altitude, and adjusting to the altitude is a concern. So I guess I don't know what your experience is with altitude, Kevin. But I guess you never know. You could leave some time to acclimate around, I think, Cottonwood Pass. You should definitely join if you're not part of it. Join the JMT group on Facebook. Those guys are really, really detailed about. I've joined and just watched. Sometimes they have kind of sample schedules for hiking, campsites to stay at, help with the permit process. Like, they're super helpful, and it's a really well moderated group. And so it's nothing where if people ask or check out the files in that group, there are lots of good resources there. Hey, I'm assuming this is Barb, Texas Hikeaholics. But hey, guys. When traveling via an airline, Adventures Found is asking this question. Do you protect your backpack in a larger suitcase, or simply check the pack as it is? When we've done it, flying to the Maroon Bells, we actually got like a duffel bag or like a Osprey Mix, an airport transporter that Karate Josh has. I bought like an REI travel duffel and made sure that my my Z-Packs alcohol fits in there, and that's what I put it in. I kind of stick the trekking poles in there and make sure that I zip it up, and that way, so if someone wants to check it up, check it out in the meantime, customs or whoever, then they can open it up. But yeah, I don't travel with a pack alone. I feel like that's the kind of a recipe for it to get caught in a conveyor belt. Tom is talking about Nero being comfortable, and Jason's agreeing with him. And so, yeah, it's something where I'm considering that kind of frameless kind of idea. Todd is asking, any chance of a backpack at Lake Superior Provincial Park Coastal Trail? There's so many different areas around Lake Superior, Todd. I haven't actually looked at that specific trail. I was thinking about Isle Royale, and I know SB Outdoors has done that trail, and a bunch of people. I know he is not as active on YouTube anymore, but Hanging with Raccoons is a YouTube channel I used to follow. I still follow him if he ever puts out a video now. That is an area I'm interested in looking at. When you're starting out, what was your base weight versus what it is now? My base weight, Cavallaro, I think when I started, and because I didn't know or care about base weight as much, I think I can talk about total pack weight. My total pack weight on my first trip, you're talking upward of 35 pounds. So I'm guessing my base weight was about 20 pounds. Right now, my base weight with the arc hull and kind of my fall spring setup is when you're talking about 11.6 pounds is what I have right now in that setup. I do have a lighter pack. I have to make sure let's see, is it in the description here? It is not. I usually put it on the backpacking gear videos, but yeah, I'll make sure I put it from now on in my description. because that's a good idea. I don't know why I haven't. I just need to update it, honestly. I think I did it before the maroon bells, so some things are different in there. I think I had canister stoves in there, Crocs were in there that aren't usually my base weight. The hiking puppy hunt going. Restless is asking about puppies because he is definitely has his hiking buddy kind of set up there. Still looking for a dog in general. I think my wife I can't convince to get a puppy as yet, since especially she'll be the one taking care of it most of the times, because she's the one who is home most often. But one of the things that we agreed on is we're gonna get a dog. We're just looking at some shelters in some different areas to see kind of what's a good fit for us. And so it's going. I just haven't found anything yet. Diva Gonzo, I'm thinking of upgrading my ancient Jansport, and so many are talking Osprey, and I don't know if the 1 pound difference is worth it yet. I think it depends, Diva, about kind of your overall base weight and kind of what you feel comfortable with. But the Osprey Exos is a series I'll continue to recommend even after it's actually back. Let's see, yeah, back there. That's the Osprey Exos 38, which actually I am getting rid of because it doesn't fit my needs anymore. So if anyone wants to message me or email me and talk about kind of what I'm selling it for, I'm more than willing to do that. But time to move on. It just doesn't fit what I'm doing right now, and I probably will make a video on that here soon. But I think I'm still going to recommend it as a kind of next step backpack for a lot of people who are kind of moving towards lightweight, moving towards ultralight. I think it's an excellent pack. Yep, Barb, I figured I got it. I knew you were the one who's most involved in the channel. Let's see. I'll have Tim check out this video made by Keith Collins titled Trans Catalina Trail March 2017. And JY, you know what's interesting is I actually just watched Tuba Solo, if you follow him. Tuba Solo the Hiker. I can't remember. Tuba the Solo Hiker. And he just did the Trans Catalina Trail. And I was thinking how awesome that is. That, you know, I know they had to do the ferry over and just hike that area, and it was just beautiful. I thought it was really cool. I actually thought at some point it was in a different country, just because some of the towns they're going through, the streets they're going through, and that would just be an awesome place to, I think, explore. Highly recommend Isle Royale. Yeah, I think that's on the list at some point. The hard part is drive time. I hate. I don't know, you guys are probably the same way. I hate kind of losing drive time, losing trail time because of drive time. And so that's something you have to consider and balance, is that, I mean, leaving 2 in the morning is pretty early, and that's when we kind of rotate who drives. But it's something that we kind of keep in mind. Oh, how well did I sleep in the shelter? I sleep okay in the shelter. It's not a hammock though. Either Laurel Highlands or Oil Creek. It's something that I just am not super comfortable doing. I mean, it's okay, but usually I end up with like a little pain in my back, or if I land on my side, that kind of hurts. And so that's something to keep in mind. It's just not the same. Trying to grow my channel. Any suggestions? Red, white, and blue 78. How about a shout out? I think is what he's trying to say. I have to check out your channel. I think because you commented before, I have to check out your videos. Grow a channel. Any suggestions? The big one is consistency. Even if you don't feel like making videos, still make videos. But I think the big thing for me is I kind of make videos that I would want to watch, and I like watching stuff that's real, not stuff that's kind of overproduced in my mind. So I don't know, this is just my personal opinion, but if it looks like it's fake or you're not being yourself, then I just tend not to want to watch as much. Get a boxer. Tim and Frozen Quebec Run Wildlife Area. I have to check that out. I just don't know enough about it, Josh. Oh, this is a good question. Fred, what do you think the next big, this is Mr. Donnell. What do you think the next big thing in backpacking will be? Where do you think we will be in 10 years? That's a great question. I think we're gonna have a new fabric. I think like right now we're talking Cuban all the time, Cuban this and Cuban that. I feel like we're gonna see a brand new fabric or a brand new kind of we tend to see more backpacking gear with Cuban right now. I just feel like we're going to see something else. And so, like, I look at Superior Wilderness Designs and their X-Pack material, and a lot of people are using the X-Pack material, and that material is really interesting to me to kind of see it. And when Karate Josh has a Superior Wilderness Design pack and I check it out, I'm kind of amazed at the strength of it and kind of how abrasion resistant it seems, as well as how lightweight it is. Because I know that's the knock on a lot of the Cuban or Cuban hybrids. Anything in DCF is sometimes the abrasion and overall durability may not be there compared to some other fabrics. So that's something to keep in mind. Up trail, let's see, get something that has a working dog in it. I know. Never tire those dogs out. Let's see, smaller through hikes need some love too. Everyone talks about the big three, but no one knows about 39 Camper, the fake news about lesser known, even if they are just as grand. Yeah, there are lots of, and I guess people ask me about the AT or the PCT or the CDT, and you know, I've talked about this before in the channel, but it's not something where I see myself doing those right now. Maybe sometime in the future, or if someone wants to offer me a job that replaces my entire income and allows me to go hiking full time, which I don't think is going to happen. I don't see myself doing those. So that's why I most of the times you'll see my trips end up being 3 days, 4 days, maybe upward of a week eventually, as the kids get a little older. But that's something that I would consider. No, Razor Guy, I have not been to anywhere in the Monongahela National Forest other than Dolly Sods. That one actually, Dolly Sods, from where I am in Northwest Ohio, is actually a bit of a haul. And so actually we liked Dolly Sods, but it's a long drive for us. Going back to some questions that we had this past week as well, and you guys in the chat can chime in. But the Tyvek ground sheet, how to make that kind of softer or more quiet, I thought that was an interesting video when I did it. And that kind of came up as a result of a question from one of you guys kind of asking me that. And so I know everyone always says, hey, just toss it in the dryer. But if you research it, it's more than just tossing it in the dryer. I think Barb from Texas Hikeaholics in the chat actually mentioned that she has a high efficiency, tossing it in the washer. Yeah, don't put it in the dryer. Barb from Texas Hikeaholics actually mentioned that she has a high efficiency washer and it didn't work for her. I don't know, because it probably doesn't agitate as much, get that crinkle out. And so that's one of the reasons I kind of started doing videos like that, is because that's kind of what you guys are asking about. And rather than giving kind of a flip answer, I think it'd be kind of fun to make a video about it. I guess we haven't really talked about backpacking clothes at all. It's funny this entire time. But one of the things I always encourage people to do is check out your local big box store for backpacking clothes. You don't necessarily need the big name brands for backpacking clothes, as long as you stick to things that are either made of wool, if you can, but those tend to be more expensive. But if you want to stick to any synthetic fabrics are where it's at in terms of if you're looking for cheap backpacking clothes. And so, I mean, I used a lot of Russell underclothing. I know, for example, both Joshes now have Russell branded base layers, and they're not quite as warm that says Under Armour, but they're good enough, honestly, for 3-season stuff without a problem. They're actually a little bit thicker, maybe a little bit heavier, but they work just as well for a fraction of the cost. Same thing with pants, especially look for nylon. Pants, I think, are fantastic for me. So our nylon blend works really well. I have not, Hamster King is asking about the Allegheny Passage. I have not done that. There's so many trails. What I'll do when you guys mention them is I actually keep a running list of areas I want to see. Sean is asking, I saw a cat on the trail over the weekend. Mom, son, and a cat hiking together. That's interesting. I have never tried a bridge hammock. No, they seem interesting. They seem more comfortable, I think. And I think I would get a bridge hammock if I were doing more camping than I usually do, rather than backpacking, just because the overall weight. I think, let's see, the hiking guy is talking about, he actually has a bridge hammock. I think he had the Clark jungle hammock, which is a little bit heavier. But the Warbonnet Ridge Runner is one of the most popular ones, I think, out there. Yep, Dave, I think I agree with you. Pets rescued from shelters make the best pets. My favorite trail in the Smoky Mountains. My favorite trail in the Smoky Mountains, I think, would be, that's a tough one. I'd say the Mount Camera area. I think that was fantastic. No, see, it's so hard. It comes down between Mount Camera and Mount LeConte. And so we headed up Rainbow Falls Trail and down, I think, the Boulevard Trail. No, Trillium Gap Trail. Trillium Gap Trail I didn't like as much, but the Rainbow Falls Trail I thought was pretty cool. But probably my favorite destination in the Smokies, now that you say that, is Mount LeConte. I just think it's a fantastic trip. And so that would be that'd be really cool. Oh, Restless is talking about open up a Patreon, Tim. We'll all throw in $1 a month, over 5,000 subscribers. You'll be all set, buddy. Patreon is one of those things. I don't know. You're not the first person to mention that, Adam, about opening up Patreon. I think I'm not there where I want to consider something like that yet. And Patreon, just for me, I don't like the idea of separating, like, this is just me personally, separating from YouTube. Like, if there was something like a mechanism in YouTube where you could, let's say, sponsor a YouTube channel that you enjoyed watching, like, I'm more likely to do that than Patreon, which is something separate. I just feel like it kind of splits the audience, and then it makes it into like people paying for like special videos or early release. I think it's kind of just an interesting way of doing things. I'm not quite there yet. I have to think through that one. And Restless Outdoors, thanks for the super chat. The $2, man. So that means the next time the first time we go ahead and meet, I have to owe you a beer at least, right? Update on Gary. Gary's actually, I think he's at Neil Gap. No, I'm going to say the wrong thing. But I've heard from him. We've heard from him. I know Frozen has. And he is doing fine, feeling pretty good, making good time. I have to check my texts and see exactly where he is. But that was, he's doing well. If you follow him on Instagram, you see he did make it up Blood Mountain. But I don't know, not sure exactly where he is. Okay, 18 miles after Neil Gap, so I had it right. Good. 39 Camper, love your videos, Tim, but want more camp time video stuff. Any idea? And I think that's, you will like our upcoming video, let's see, in 2 weeks then, Daryl, because there's a lot more camping this time, so a lot more cooking, fire stuff. Probably not as much as you would like to see, but a decent amount there. So you'll definitely have that. Hey, W Jenin with the $5. Thanks a lot, guys. Like I always tell you guys, if there are any super chats and things like that, they go directly back in the channel. So I was talking to Subaru Josh today about how fortunate I am that this channel, which is kind of a hobby related to a hobby, how it helps generate and support kind of my backpacking hobby and channel. And so even the frameless pack that I purchased, because yes, I did purchase a frameless pack. I'm not gonna give away the whole secret yet. That's all from the channel. That all is kind of going back in to kind of show you guys the experience and kind of how I have it, how it works for me. And so it's kind of cool. Thank you so much for that. Let's see, PFG surge on Sierra Trading Post. Yep. So company water, change the big gear. Whoa, Rom, $9.99. I like that too. Thanks a lot for the super chat there, Rom. And I always say that YouTube is interesting in that you kind of think YouTube kind of places people like me or like Frozen as kind of like experts sometimes, and I think it's always interesting. I've been thinking about how I don't feel like an expert. I share what I know, and I still feel like I'm relatively new to this overall. But I research things to death, and so it's something that I just try to share what I do know with people, and I think we learn together as an overall community. So that's fun, and thank you so much for that. Once again, it all goes towards like paying Subaru Josh for gas on different areas and going to different hikes. And so thank you very much for the channel support. Let's see. Oh, JY, the new Osprey Levity. Yes, I have thought about testing it out. Actually, really considered purchasing it because it's on pre-order now at REI. But I look at it and I think to myself, I would just be buying it just to review it and just to make a video to say I don't like it. Some things that concern me about the Osprey Levity is not only the type of material that they use, the lack of hip belt pockets. I feel like it doesn't justify going for the Osprey Levity over, let's say, a cottage industry gear or backpack. Wow, another super chat came in. Thanks, Fred. I really appreciate the support, guys. It's awesome. I think it's really, I don't know what else to say. I think I've said it all, but thank you so much for that. Let's see. Nylon pants. Let's see, what was I? Yep. Oh yeah, the Osprey Levity. And so yeah, I would buy it just for pretty much testing out and then to trash it in a video. I know that sounds awful, but I look at it and I'm not sure who it's made for. That's my problem, is when I look at the cost, I look at the weight of it, I look at the load carrying capability of the Osprey Levity, I am not certain who it's made for. I think it's made for someone who is not aware of the cottage vendors out there and what they can make and the pack weight to pack capacity. And so even the new Osprey Exo series without having hip belt pockets, those kind of things just kind of turn me off, honestly. So the Osprey Levity, I probably will not be testing it out unless someone wants me to definitely buy it, and I'll try it out and I'll send it back to you. I'd be buying it and just kind of wasting it. Are there any websites or research into ages of backpackers that you have seen? Any certain ages more likely to do shorter hikes? Any solid done more, or some done more by young packers or old? I think what I've seen sometimes in hiking trail surveys probably is what you're talking about, Fred. I've seen some of those, especially on the JMT. They have a survey that they do after kind of every season, and that's kind of awesome. Awesome to see. And they talk about kind of pack weight, they talk about footwear, and I've also seen that I think there's an AT through hiker survey as well, but I'm not sure if they kind of do it by age alone or not. Rainbow Falls is really pretty. Let's see. Hamster is asking about all those Z-Packs tents are going to make you switch to ground dwelling. No, it is not. I think I'm jealous of those guys sometimes in their Z-Packs tents because they can get lighter. They just can. Overall, then a comparable hammock setup, and it's all in one. They have it there, and they just set it up, and they're so fast. Tents are going to be faster overall than a hammock setup. It just is going to, just if you're doing apples to apples. But I'm not going to switch to ground dwelling. I just get, the reason is the sleep that I get in a hammock is way better than any sleep I've ever had on the ground. And so I don't see myself as getting away from that. Have I tried the Vargo bot? I have not. Trevor's talking about eating packet gourmets, Dottie's chicken and dumpling for dinner. Yeah, I like trying things out before I take it out on trips. I think it's kind of important to do that. A Night Core U25 because of Frozen. It's now your turn. I know. When I saw that video that Frozen just made of moving from the Petzl Act, after he just did a review, moving from the Petzl Act to the Night Core, we've been talking about headlamps like that just a little bit occasionally. And so it's been kind of fun to see him do it. But it's just, that's 2 ounces. And it's funny how we kind of shift weight around and we kind of choose what areas we end up kind of making heavier. And so looking at him, you know, in the same video, he was talking about kind of switching to the headlamp. And part of the savings, he used it toward, if you will, his pillow. And so he's carrying a heavier pillow, but he's lighting up a headlamp. Which is, I think we all do that. Going up north. Tim, hope you're getting ready for the last video. How to quiet your Tyvek was maybe useful, but a far reach. Yeah, Larry, I thought that when I was editing, I was like, well, is this something that I kind of really want to release? But usually it's it's based on a question. And so if enough people ask a specific question, I usually will do a video on it, even if it's an easy one that I can just respond to. Sometimes it's easier to respond in a video than 5 or 6 times. Half Hitch does, yep, there are those AT, PCT, CDT surveys. Restless is asking, last question, how old is your stash? Any plans to get rid of it? That's funny. I think I always joke that I was born with my stash, is how it kind of came out. But we all know that's not true. But my stash kind of started probably from the time I was 12. I don't know if you can believe this or not, but I actually had a stash when I was 12. And that's kind of when it started. And I shaved it twice in college. Once because because I felt like it, because I never had, and the second time I shaved it because my wife, then girlfriend, had never seen me without it. And once I did shave it, she's like, yeah, you probably should keep the mustache. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I kind of have a thick upper lip. Larry is talking about, thank you for the videos. Almost too lazy to take a picture. I know, and sometimes when you watch my backpacking trip videos, you'll realize I don't necessarily film the entire time. And one of the reasons why is because if I'm super tired, I just don't take a whole lot of video. And I actually don't do as much work as someone like Frozen does, I think, with his videos, or the big backpackers do with their trip videos. I don't set up a whole lot of shots, but I try to give a general flavor of what I'm doing and where I am. Thank you so much, Fred. Let's see. Tim, you should make a singing video like Shug just did. Yeah, if you guys have watched Shug Emery here on YouTube, he's kind of the hammock guru here on YouTube. He just released a singing video, and I actually was thinking that Bob, I was like, hey, we should get together and like do like a band or some kind, the Backpackers of YouTube. Let's see. Matt Schaefer. Yeah, no worries about the tie back. Yeah, I know sometimes I think that with videos, there are actually some videos, Lara, where I edit them and I think to myself, would I want to, I guess my barometer is, would I want to watch this if I were either a new backpacker or someone just into backpacking? If the answer is no, it doesn't get released. So I actually have 2 videos, I think, just sitting and editing where I never release them because I rewatch them and I don't like them. So those videos are actually kind of frustrating to make because you go through all the filming and you think about how it's going to end up looking and you just don't release them. Tim got his stash during the filming of Super Troopers. And those of you guys, it's so funny how often I get that comment from people who are not used to the channel. They'll say, hey, has anyone ever told you that you look like the guy from Super Troopers? And I'm like, yep, only, half a dozen times. I think I got a new one. I got a couple of them, a couple people that ask me like if I look like. One I've gotten is Steve Harvey, which I guess he has a mustache. Another one I've gotten is I don't know. It's a singer of some kind, of British singer. I don't remember his name. Yeah, Thorny. But yeah, let's see. What did we not cover? That I think I've mentioned this before. Talking about base weights overall and dropping base weight. And so one of the things I'm probably going to switching to, for summer and those kind of more moderate temperatures, the Mass Drop Pine Down Blanket. I shared this on Facebook a while back, and I really think it's going to be a phenomenal thing. I think it's like 19 ounces, and so I don't think you're going to be able to get as low as 20 degrees like my Enigma, but it's one of those things I'm probably going to switch out and try compared to the Costco down quilt. Granted, it's a little bit more expensive, but I expect it to kind of go to lower temperatures, and that's one of the things that's going to help push me to ultralight when I get that frameless pack for the summer months. Of course, heavier loads, winter, big trips out west, I'm still going to use the Arc Haul. Anything longer, I'm going to use the Arc Haul for. But that frameless pack that hopefully should be coming here in a little while, I'm gonna guess in 2 weeks or so, should be something that I'm really excited to get. Hey, Lisa. I think if you have any final questions, make sure you put them in the chat. We've been going for about an hour. You guys have been rocking the chat, so it's been pretty awesome to watch. I love it when the chat is just, I don't know, just constantly moving, constantly questions about gear, because it makes the stream so much fun. And you guys interacting in the chat always has makes it a fun time. I always have like my list of things that I'm gonna do in the show, or whatever we call this live stream. But it's one of those things where I just kind of set an outline, and some of the times I look like Magnum PI. But it's one of those things where it's nice to kind of go off script like this, and so it's kind of fun to do that. Kevlar, would I consider doing some food videos? I have a few up right now. If you look at the playlists, I have a ton of playlists. But if you search on my channel for backpacking food videos, I think I have 2 up. So you kind of see I'm starting to do a lot more healthier options. And honestly, if you want to see a channel that's kind of rocking the food recently, SB Outdoors here on YouTube is starting to do a lot of dehydrating food, which I think is probably what you're talking about. And so that's something that I haven't really gotten into. I feel like this hobby can split so many different directions, and that you can kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say lose yourself, but that's kind of what I'm thinking of. You can kind of go into backpacking food dehydration. You can go into DIY, make your own gear stuff. And there's all this stuff that you can get into. And so I try to maintain, like, okay, we're just doing backpacking, right? It should be pretty simple relatively. But just something to consider. Hey, R. Pelton, thank you very much. A big meetup trip. You know, I've been talking a lot with Super Josh about a meetup, and unfortunately there was going to be a meetup here later in March, but I couldn't make it the specific date. But I think a big meetup would be kind of fun. Especially, I'll have to talk to Frozen and see when he's thinking about doing a meetup, and see if we can do just like a giant, I don't know, backpacking extravaganza camp trip. Not necessarily a backpacking trip, but a camp trip or a channel trip. It'd be kind of fun. Sawyer is my main go-to. I've never used the Katadyn B free water filter. I probably will not make the switch until something comes out that kind of dethrones the Sawyer. The Katadyn B free, I've just seen too many reports of people with it getting clogged too easily, too quickly, and I think you have to clean it more regularly, which is the issue. So that's why I've stayed away from it. Doc. Hey, thanks, Doc. Yeah, that's the thing I try to do. It's easier to be yourself than anyone else, and so that's what I try to do. And Super Josh will attest that what you see on the live stream is exactly who I am in person. I'm even funnier in person, if anything. I know I have to hike with you first, Josh Sanders, before I give you a Josh name. I have to think about it. But yeah, I have to think on that one. Opinion on Cheers, like the Elite Monarch. No, I honestly do not know much about Cheers. I am Soldog. Yes, and I am taller in person. I think people are usually surprised by that. I'm sorry, I don't know much about Cheers. To me, so these backpacking chairs, I would focus on weight, since you're going to backpack with it, and just kind of, I think I don't want to say a dime a dozen, but that's what I mean. They're kind of, seem like they're kind of a dime a dozen. There are a lot of Chinese made ones now, a lot of Amazon ones, that I don't think personally, it seems like there's enough difference to differentiate them. All right, Jason, I'll look for a text or a message. I think it'd be kind of cool to do a giant channel backpacking meetup or something. And yes, I am only 6'1", but it seems like a lot of people who are into hiking and backpacking are of the shorter stature. But yeah, something to consider is that if you see me, I do seem like I'm kind of huge compared to other people. All right, guys, thanks so much for the chat. It's been awesome once again, kind of connecting this way and just kind of talking about gear. And one of the best things is that this stuff is so real, and that you kind of get unfiltered sort of opinions on what things are like. Thank you, Ozark Hiker, for reminding people to thumbs up if you enjoyed watching it. And so, peace out.